What's up, everybody? It's Coach Dave, and I lift.
And Laura and I lift. Welcome to the She Lifts.
He lifts podcast, and tonight we're going to try a little something different. We are posed a question to each other, and the question is: if when you get stuck in a rut, what are five things you focus on to reset and sort of reevaluate and sort of help you power through a plateau? So, without any further ado, we're each going to give five. We're going to each give one, and we're going to go back. I think Laura and I, when we get there, we're both going to have a very similar number one. However, I am going to begin. My first thing that I really focus on when I get stuck, the first thing I focus on is my water intake. How much water am I drinking throughout the day? They say a gallon of water a day is sort of like the baseline, and some people say, oh, an ounce for every pound of body weight. There's all kinds of different math and science out there on it. The idea is just to drink water. My thing when it comes to drinking water is in the summertime, I feel like sometimes it's a lot easier because it's hot, because I want something to cool me off. I'm sweating, I'm running around the gym, everybody else is sweating. So it gets a little, it feel like it's a little easier. In the wintertime, it becomes harder because A, you're not as hot, you're not as sweaty. The other thing is, a lot of times I think you tend to reach for something hot, and a lot of times for us fitness professionals, I feel like that thing is coffee. Um, so that ends up actually dehydrating you a little bit. One cup of coffee isn't the end of the world, but when we drink two or three cups of coffee throughout the morning, that starts to add up. And then that is going to dehydrate you a little bit. So I think by adding water, filling your stomach up so you're not as hungry, also flushing out your system. Because as you burn fat, those fat cells break down and dirty water is left in your body. You want to clean that water out. So let's focus on our water intake. That is my number five thing.
All right, number one for me is going to be increasing my daily steps. This is biggest for me when we're transitioning seasons. So in winter, I notice that I'm a lot more sedentary. I have my Fitbit because I like to track my daily steps. I do not condone this, but I am obsessed with my Fitbit and my daily steps and my calories burned and everything. So don't do as I do as I say on this one. Don't be obsessed with your watch. I'm conscious of it and I'm trying to get better. But I do like it to track your daily steps. I used to work at an office and I would only hit about 6,000 steps a day, but then I would go and do my workout for like an hour or two thinking I'm getting ahead of all that time that I'm spending sitting. You can still be sedentary even if you get your workouts in. So my the thing that I find gets me out of a plateau the first, without even changing anything else, is just being more mindful of hitting 8,000 steps. If you're already hitting 8,000 steps, I would go up to maybe 10,000. If you're at like 4,000 now, I would start at 6. So wherever you are, I would adjust those steps just a little bit, just to kind of not necessarily focus on burning calories, but just making sure you're moving more. Your joints will feel better, your mood will be better, and just generally it'll get you out of a little bit of a plateau.
And absolutely, giving steps, like you said, it isn't about burning calories, although getting moving, the more you move, the more calories you will burn, and we all know that. But that sort of translates right into my number four. And my number four, I think, is incredibly underrated when it comes to fitness in general, and that is your sunlight exposure. Now, I am going to say this. I feel that my generation sort of ruined the sun for people because we got obsessed in the 80s with tanning and tanning beds and tanning salons and a lot of negative things, especially when it comes to your skin and and your skin health and overall health too, really sort of came to the forefront. So I feel like a lot of times the sunlight gets a bad rap. But let me tell you, and I'm going to tell you a little story. So the one gym that I used to work in a lot more, I still work there, but I only work there 2 days a week now. We used to be a grocery store, and it has big, giant, floor-to-ceiling windows, like every grocery store does. The desk that my desk was right in front of those windows. I got sunlight all day long to the point where, like, it at times, especially in the summertime, it got hot. Once I left there and went on my own, the gym I work at now is in more of a warehouse building. There is not as much natural light. I'd also, to compound that, I started there in November. So one of the things I sort of noticed as time went on is that I started to feel run down, even though I eat relatively healthy. I drink lots of water. I get my exercise. I'm like, why am I so tired? When springtime started to roll around, I started making a point to get outside more. As soon as I did, within 2 days, I noticed a jump in mood, and I think the sunlight exposure is really important. If we can find a way to be outside for 15 to 20 minutes every day, and again, not baking in the sun, not laying out by the pool, with no shirt on, in our bathing suit, crisping our skin. That's not what I'm talking about. But go for a walk in nature. Uh, Sit outside on your deck and read a book. Eat dinner outside. Just do something outside for a little while. Get some fresh air. Stop breathing in recycled air. Get some sunlight. Get some vitamin D because that will increase your energy. And when I think increased energy comes increased metabolism.
Yeah, for sure, and not but also it helps increase your mood, and seasonal depression plays a huge role in that. So even in the winter, I know it's cold, but trying to get outside in the winter to beat that seasonal depression. My next one, I'm gonna start with my where do I want to go next? I think I'm gonna go into I want to be focused on being present in my workouts, and not just me, but I do notice this with a lot of beginners. This is a common thing. So we're going to be present, or we're going to be mindful about getting our sun. We also want to be mindful and be mentally present in our workouts. We don't want to just get in there and go through the motions and think about all the 500,000 things that we have to do the rest of the day. When you are in that workout, I want you to try, and I try to clear my head as much as I possibly can. I am thinking about, and obviously there are exceptions if I really have something going on. The thoughts do start creeping in. I want to try to clear my head, and the only thing I'm thinking about is my form, what I'm doing next, how many reps I'm doing, how many sets I'm doing. I am focusing on my workout only, trying to make every single rep look the same. Because when we stay intentional inside of our workout, yes, we're going to get more physical benefits, but we're also going to get more cognitive benefits. Because our thoughts are being so present on what we're doing, and we're not just mindlessly going through the motions. So there have been some studies that resistance training does actually help with like Alzheimer's and dementia, because your thoughts are so focused on what you're doing. So later down the road, that can help you out too. And not only, so like my focus is being present in my workouts and general mindfulness as well. Try to be every day. Think of something that you are grateful for. We do this with our son. At the end of the day, we have him pick something that he's thankful for every single day. Now he's 3, so he thinks of like his toys, or like sometimes he'll pick like my pajamas or something. So try to think of one small thing a day. It doesn't have to be anything like super huge, but just practicing being aware of your day and acknowledging what happened, what was good, what was bad. Think about something that you're thankful for at the end of the day, but then also too trying to be mindful at the beginning of the day. It doesn't have to be like a long drawn out thing. It can be like one short, like, I am going to have a good day, or I am successful, I am strong, whatever. Just tell yourself some kind of little mantra or like affirmation, and repeat that to yourself. And I'm not gonna lie, at the beginning of it, you may have to lie to yourself a little bit, and that's okay. I don't condone lying unless it's to yourself, because if you lie to yourself enough times, you're gonna start to believe it. So having that little affirmation at the beginning of the day will set the tone for the day, and then practicing gratitude at the end of the day will help kind of take you out of any kind of mental like slump that you're in. It just helps your mood a little bit to be more present of things around you at the beginning and the end of the day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we could all benefit from a little mindfulness because one of the things I think about, and especially I'm with Laura on this one, is that when it comes to working out, a lot of times we go in there and we use, let's face it, a lot of us use working out um, sometimes as a way to blow off stress, and we start thinking about that thing. If we can blow off that steam and stop thinking about it, if we have a problem that we're trying to solve, sometimes stepping away from that problem for a little bit makes it easier to solve. And it always has been, and I'm not exactly sure what the psychology is behind that, but it definitely does. Um, Number three thing that I am going to say that I always reevaluate whenever I am stuck at a plateau or am trying to change a phase of my workout, and that is something that I didn't think was as important until I A got older and B really, really dove into my fitness journey. And that is, I'm going to use three words, and those are my sleep, my recovery, and my rest. Those are not always necessarily the same thing, but they all sort of three go hand in hand. So what do I mean? Obviously, we know what our sleep is. If we want to make sure that we're trying to get between 7 and 8 hours of sleep as a day as adults. Okay. I know sometimes you say, well, I'm not sure that I have that much time. Make the time. Secondly, um stop glorifying lack of sleep. Oh, I was up all night working on my term paper, or I was up all night cleaning my house or doing this. And stop wearing that like a badge of honor, because trust me, as you get older, that will seriously impact your mental health.
Preach.
It really will. People, oh, I go to bed at midnight and I get up at 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning, whatever. Dude, you're not giving yourself enough sleep. You're not giving your body enough time to recover from the day before. Recovery is what I, I'm sorry, recovery is what I do immediately after my workout. Okay. What am I doing after my workout? Am I running right back? For me, am I running right back to work? Am I throwing my stuff in my gym bag and going off to pick up the kids? Am I heading home and getting right to cooking dinner and cook? And am I going home from the gym on Saturday morning and going home and cutting the grass? What am I doing after my workout? Or am I having my protein shake? Am I changing my clothes? Am I showering? Am I stretching after my workout? And that is something that I have really, in the last probably 4 or 5 months, really made an effort on is my stretching after my workout, because I always try to, oh, I have a client coming in and I'm going to work out to the last possible minute. Eating is another one that is real big in your recovery after your workout. And I think that is something that isn't talked about enough is what we do, put in our body immediately after a workout. I know some people have a protein shake. I actually, when I am not in a cutting phase, I will have a protein shake mixed with a powdered carbohydrate to help my body absorb that protein faster. I find that is a super helpful recovery. I will say one little caveat with that: make sure you have a meal handy for about 30 to 40 minutes afterwards, because if not, you will have one hell of a sugar crash. The last part of this, what I said, is our rest. And when I say our rest, that means the days that we aren't working out. As you get into your fitness journey, these are, and Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, some days when you almost have to force yourself to rest when it comes to your working out. I
Oh yeah.
actually, I like sometimes when I don't work out or I don't go to the gym or I don't do something, even if that's something as simple as walking, Um, I feel like, oh my God, I'm gonna fall off my program. Rest. Now there are two types of rest. There is rest, and there is active rest. I will admit that I opt for the active rest, and that is walking, that is yoga, that is some sort of very low impact, low effort exercise. And that does have its benefits, but periodically, guess what, guys? Take the day off from exercise. Don't walk. Don't yoga. I'm not saying sit on the couch all day, but enjoy your life. Do something that doesn't involve your exercise. On those days, I will say I do try to make it a point to get a little bit more on my nutrition and make sure that I'm not putting a cheap food or something in there, but make sure we take our rest. That is super important for not just your workout, but also your overall health. Because if we keep working out to improve our health and we're not letting our body recover, we're not helping ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. Another thing, I don't feel like people talk about this enough. There's a difference between the optimal amount of sleep and the amount of sleep that your body can tolerate. So, set like 8 hours would be optimal, but you might be able to tolerate six, and you might not be feeling tired, and you might not get any of the symptoms of not having enough sleep. But even if you don't feel tired, you still need to push for those 8 hours of sleep. So just because you can survive on it does not mean that it is good for you. My next thing is going to be skipping body parts that you don't like to train. So I know a lot of times, like in our last episode, Dave talked about how men tend to skip glutes. Women tend to skip chest. This obviously are generalizations. When you skip chest or when you skip glutes or chest, you're going to start to develop imbalances. So we talked about a little bit in our last episode. When you have weak glutes or glutes that don't properly activate, you can start to have low back pain. That's a very common cause of lower back pain. When you're neglecting chest, you are also neglecting a bunch of your front delt. And not only are we neglecting certain body parts that may not develop, but we're also not sending that as much of a stimulus to our central nervous system. So you may have heard, like, this is a little more advanced, so you may or may not have heard this. But to get towards like if you're stuck in your lift and you can't progress in your bench press, this is true for a lot of men. If you can't progress in your bench press, start focusing on your squat. No, having stronger legs is not going to give you a stronger chest. What it is going to do is strengthen your central nervous system. We want to make sure that we're strengthening that central nervous system because everything is connected. It's not just a physical journey. We also want to focus on our brain health and our neurological health for the longevity of life, which we are all about because our thing is She Lives, He Lives, sustainable fitness for real life. So we want to make sure that we are training every single part of our body so that we are also properly training our central nervous system.
And yeah, absolutely, guys, stop skipping leg day. Though you don't want to be that. You don't want to be the guy with 6 mile wide shoulders on toothpicks. So my number two thing, and this could almost be number one, but it's one of those things I feel like for the most part I pretty much have down and I know what I need to do. But my number two thing that I always look whenever I'm stuck is my nutrition. What am I putting in my body? Am I relying too much on my cheat foods? Am I not getting enough protein? Am I not getting enough vegetables? Am I pushing the limits of what is healthy and what are my cheat foods? And I'll be honest with you. I've told you guys before, I was 270 pounds at one point. I didn't get that way because I don't like food. So I sometimes I one of my big things when it comes to nutrition is that I tend to adapt things that I really like and really crave into a healthier option. Sometimes that does push the limits there of your caloric intake. So sometimes yes, you do have to go back to the chicken, rice, and broccoli every now and then. And sometimes I look at that and say, all right, what am I putting in my body that isn't getting me closer to my goal? We say 80% of how you look and your body type is what you eat and not what you lift. One of the greatest quotes I ever heard when it came to fitness was flat stomachs are made in the gym, six pack abs are made in the kitchen. If we are truly dedicated, if we are truly trying to get to that low level of body fat that's going to show our abs or show our physique, guess what, guys? At some point, we're really going to have to
Yeah,
stop and
100%.
relook at
That's
that
why I've been
nutrition.
talking about for the last couple of weeks about how I don't have physique goals, so my nutrition is not on point. And I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I do like see myself. I'm like, damn, could have got a little leaner for summer. But then you kind of have to have that. You have to have that conversation with yourself. What do I care about more? So right now, I personally would rather go to the pool with my son and not have to worry about what my macros are. But then a little bit of me is also concerned about my physique. So it is a give and a take with your nutrition. And you will go through phases where you are on it and you're not, and you're modifying. And sometimes you're going to be tracking your nutrition 100%, and sometimes you're not. And that is honestly, if you track your nutrition all the time, that's not going to be sustainable and you're going to get burnt out anyway. So you need those phases.
I'll be honest with you, Laura. One of the times that I really, like you said, in the summer, you want to go to the pool with your son, and I know what going to the pool with the kids means. But my big thing, I tell you what, one of the places I fall off is the holidays a lot, and that's why I make sure that if I'm doing competitions, I don't do any during from usually Thanksgiving, till like earliest I'm going to do is like the end of February. I like Christmas foods. I like fall foods. I'm a big beer drinker. So one of those things in the fall time is when they have all the harvest beers, and those are one of those things that, you know what, it is worth it to me, because I will say this, and this is where I really think, and again, this is another one of those statements I'm going to make that we could do a whole show on. You have to really sometimes take a step back and look. Like you said, Laura, you don't necessarily have physique goals, but every now and then you sort of got, all right, I want to take a step back and look at it. And we have to decide. The big question we have to ask ourselves: is this worth it? Is this worth my fitness journey? And sometimes that answer is yes. Kids, Laura and I are both parents. We have children. I will never, ever, ever, ever tell my son or my daughter that I'm not going to have a piece of cake on your birthday because daddy wants to have a flat stomach. That's not fair to them. It's not fair to me. And trust me, when I am 90 years old and wait, waiting for the man upstairs to come to take me home, I'm not going to say, God damn, I'm glad I missed that piece of cake. No, that's the thing you're going to
Yeah.
regret. Trust and
I'm
believe me
actually
when
the
I tell you.
opposite with you on the beers. I'm the sour beer in the summer person. So that is another reason why I don't have physique goals in the summer, because I'll be tearing up the sour beers, not gonna lie. Oh
Oh, I
heck
like my
yeah.
sours too and my orange crushes.
All right, my next one. So this is a
All
little
right.
specific, a little nitpicky, a little niche. Creatine intake. So I don't typically recommend. Not that I don't push. Okay, it's not that I don't recommend, but I don't push supplements for my clients. So I don't tell them like on day one. I'm not like, oh, you have to go get a protein powder. We'll kind of see how your protein intake is. Maybe we'll get a protein powder. Maybe you're getting in through Whole Foods. So I don't even honestly really care about protein powder that much. But the one supplement that I do recommend to everybody at some point in their journey, maybe not necessarily once they're beginning, creatine. Creatine is the most studied supplement. So I feel super confident recommending it to my clients. I feel confident taking it myself. You may have heard a little bit about creatine. It helps replenish your third ATP. So your muscles, when they are working, it's adenosine triphosphate. You lose a phosphate when you're putting out energy. Creatine helps put that third phosphate back on. So maybe you have a little bit more stamina. Maybe you have a little bit more in the tank. You can get some more reps out. You can push some heavier weight. So yes, we like the physical benefits because you can perform a little bit better. But for me, the most important thing, and this is just a slightly more important, they are fairly equal. You get a ton of cognitive benefits from creatine now. Their studies are coming out. So creatine does also help with your cognitive health, not your mental health. I don't know. Maybe it'll come out that it helps with your mental health, but it helps prevent Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, any brain deterioration diseases. So no matter where you are in your fitness journey, I actually recommended my grandma asked her doctor if it was going to be okay for her to get on creatine for her with her medications, because not only do I want her, like, as we get older, as we go into advanced stage, it gets a little harder to get up and down out of a chair. So that creatine is going to help her get that power. So that I don't know if anybody else's grandmas do this, but my grandma, she'll kind of like rock back and forth a couple times, and then she'll get out of her chair. So the creatine will help, so she doesn't have to sit there and rock back and forth a ton. Maybe she'll get it on the first try. But most importantly, as we age, it's going to help protect her cognitive delay. So I always recommend creatine for any phases of your fitness journey, because one, it's going to take you to the next performance level, but it's also going to support your cognitive health long term. And you don't have to cycle on and off creatine. You can stay on creatine as long as you want. Just to get a little bit more specific, creatine loading is something, if you read the instructions, it'll tell you to do like, I can't remember if it's like 20, I don't creatine load, so I don't really know. It's either 20 or 15 milligrams of creatine for like a week, because you're supposed to build up creatine stores in your body. I personally don't do that. I just do the 5, just a scoop, because long term, after like a week or two, you have the same amount of creatine levels in your body anyway. That's short term, not long term. But you have the same amount of creatine levels in your body whether you creatine load or not. So I personally don't do that, just because I don't want to waste my creatine. You are also okay to get usually the cheapest brand of creatine you can find. Protein powder, I'm a little bit more specific, because if it's not a very good quality protein, you could honestly be shitting your brains out because it's not a good protein. Creatine, you can get the cheapest one that you can find. Sometimes creatine, they'll kind of market it a little bit. They'll put like pharmaceutical grade on it just to try to get you to pay more. As long as it's creatine monohydrate, it's all the same thing.
Creatine definitely is a supplement. Now, I will say I do cycle on and off of it because creatine, one of the functions is help getting water to your muscles. And when I'm in a cutting phase, especially for a competition, I that like right now I'm off the creatine. So and again that's a personal thing, but creatine is she's right is probably the most recommended supplement. I don't even consider protein powder a supplement. Protein powder is food to me. All it is, whey protein is the protein extracted out of milk. So, so to me, that's just food. But creatine has a ton of benefits, and I think we're kind of just scratching the surface of what it does. And right, that is one supplement I will not spend a ton of money on. When I am on my supplement kick, I will get the 6-star creatine from monohydrate from Walmart. It is usually a good it is a lot less expensive than going and getting the stuff from GNC. But my number one thing that I always look at when I am stuck in a rut, and guys, this should really be a no-brainer, but it is, what am I doing in the gym? What am I doing? Have I been on the same split or the same weight or the same type of movements for more than 6 or 8 weeks? Have I not tried to up my bench press for or my squat or my deadlift or my row or my shoulder press? By the way, I do consider those compound lifts as well. Um,
Yeah.
I have a question for you, by the way, while we're talking about compound lift real quick.
No.
Is the curl a compound lift, yes or no?
Who's saying curl on
I
lip?
didn't think so either. Okay, good. Number the when it comes to your workout, your body, we've talked about this, your body adapts to stress. Once your body is adapted to stress, we need to change the stress. So regardless of whether we're trying to grow, we're trying to shrink, we're trying to get stronger, we're trying to get leaner, at some point we have to reevaluate what we're doing and change that stress to sort of move to the next level. And it can be something, it doesn't necessarily need to be add weight. It could be change up the split. Rather than, if you've been doing push pull legs for the last 6 months, guess what? Maybe you want to go into more of a one body part a day type split. Or maybe you want to go to an upper body split. Or maybe you want to tone back your workouts actually and go into full body splits 3 days a week with a cardio day in there or two. Fine, again, go, we always talk about train for your goals. Value.
Yeah, 100%. I actually just recently, I would say maybe like 3 years ago, when I had my son, before I had him, I used to do a little bit more body part split. I would go 5 days a week, and like one day, I think I did quads and glutes, and then the second day it would be chest, and then I would do back, and then I would do hamstrings and glutes, and then I would do shoulders and biceps. That was my split. I used to do that religiously for years. But then when I had my son, I was a new mom and I couldn't make it to the gym for hours in the day. So I had to kind of have a little mental argument, discussion, whatever, with myself. And I switched my training from a 5 day week body part split to a 3 day week full body split. And I have honestly never seen my physique respond the way that it did when I switched my training to 3 day week full body. Like, I got so much stronger. My physique, my muscles grew. I got so much more defined. Like, it was wild because it was such a significant change for me. So if you've been stuck even in, like, maybe you're going consistently, but you do the same things every time, I highly recommend switching up your routine. And I cannot say enough good things about a 3 day week full body split. I don't even, honestly, now I'm down to 2. I still feel great on a 2 day a week full body split too. So kind of training for your goals and your lifestyle there also. My last one, I'm coming out from a little bit of a different approach. So this, or my number one, I'm coming out from a little bit of a different approach. So it might seem a little unusual, but then I'll explain after I talk about it. So my number one is doing unilateral or single-sided movements. So I'm coming at this from a mobility and how my joints feel, how my body's moving standpoint. I tend to get stuck. We talk about this a lot. I love to deadlift. I love to deadlift so much that I have a deadlift tattoo. So because I'm always doing that deadlift, where I'm using both sides of my body equally, I get stuck in using my same sides of my body for my same movements over and over and over again because I enjoy that movement. I need to take myself either into a unilateral, which means opposite hand and foot training method, or a single-sided training block for a while, because when I'm always pressing through both feet or I'm always pushing a barbell with both hands, no matter what, one of your hands or one of your feet are going to be stronger than the other. So if I'm squatting, one of my feet are pushing harder than my other foot. Same thing with my arms. When I'm doing those compound movements with the barbell, I am doing more work with one side than the other. If I take a break, and that is going to also start to impact my joints. So my back's probably not going to feel great. If I only push with one shoulder instead of the other, my dominant shoulder is probably going to start to hurt. So when I start to feel not so great, I know, okay, it's time for me to take a step back. I got to set aside the things that I love, and I need to focus on strengthening my imbalances. I need to work on my opposite sides of my body. So I will take a second where I will do, and I do, usually when I break up my training styles, I'll do like 3-ish weeks. My unilateral and my single-sided phases I will do for a while, because I know when I like to train how I like to train. I have a tendency to not do the things I know I'm supposed to do. So I take a significant chunk of time, like usually it ends up being over the summer, where I am putting aside the barbell movements for a little bit and I'm focusing on my imbalances. So I'm going to focus on maybe I'm doing overhead press as my focus. I'm going to do dumbbell, single arm overhead press. I'm going to start to be aware of my imbalances and the things that are causing me pain. I'm going to start to work on my opposite hand and foot to get my coordination, so that when I'm in those compound movements, I have that stability and I have that confidence. Even if you're not consciously thinking like, oh man, my right leg needs to push harder than my left leg does on this squat or whatever, your body is going to protect itself without you even knowing. So your body is going to limit your range of motion. It's going to limit the amount of weight that you can do as a protective measure. So when we take a step back and we focus on correcting those imbalances, working those single-sided movements, working that opposite hand and foot to work on that coordination, our balance, and our stability, we will not only progress our lifts, which if that's your goal, if that's what you want to focus on, you will progress your lifts, but most importantly, your joints are going to feel better. And like we talk about, this is all about long-term sustainable fitness. So if you like to lift heavy, you also need to take a step back and you need to limit yourself and go lighter and correct those imbalances so that your journey can be a long-term journey. I know a lot of times if you're intermediate or advanced, it's really hard mentally when you don't enjoy your workouts, but you have to practice that discipline. You have to stay disciplined and do the things that you know you need to do so that your journey is a long-term journey.
Definitely got to train each side of the body. We want to be as balanced and as fit and as mobile and just as healthy as we possibly can, and because that's what this is all about, is our health. Right. So that is all the time we have for this week. Next week we are going to be talking about our nutrition, and we're going to give you some hacks to get your nutrition going. So until next week, I'm Coach Dave. Check me out, Rockstar Fitness on Facebook,
And
dwebster023
I'm
on
Laura. You
Instagram.
can find me at Laura_CPT on TikTok and Instagram, and Laura Ash Personal Trainer. Don't forget, you can do hard things.
Until next week.